Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to Chris Greenhill's Garage. Today we are going to stab my Ford 302 and my T5 transmission into my 1988 Ford Mustang GT Project White Trash. Or rather, we already did. You're going to notice the haircut changes a little bit and the clothing changes a little bit. So it's already done, but you don't know that yet. We're from the future. Yeah, that's how that works. So let's get right to it. Warn you in advance, I had to do some prep work before. Every time I thought it's time to stab the engine, found more stuff to do. Why are you looking taller than me, boy? Squat. Can't be taller than me, boy. Anyway, stop trying to out-angle me. Ugh. But we're gonna get this engine installed, or are we? Maybe we won't. Who knows? It may or may not be sitting right behind us. But anyway, thanks for watching. We appreciate it. Let's get right to the work. Before we get to install the engine, I'm going to paint my headers. I'm really impressed with the high gloss, high temp black that's on Junior's headers. They've stayed black for months now, to the point I'm thinking about pulling his H-pipe and his mufflers off and painting them in that same black. Believe it or not, these headers were also painted with high temp black back in the 90s. Of course, they immediately turned brown after about an hour. But I'm really impressed with this new high temp paint that I've got. So I'm going to go ahead and spray these down. I forgot that I had not tapped my header bolt holes yet, and just did, and wow, there's all sorts of nastiness and greasiness up in there. Old gunk and oil and junk and just old paint from where I painted the headers and stuff. So here in a minute I'll be ready for header bolts. Really glad we took the time to do this now. We never would have gotten header bolts inside those heads with the headers on the car and the engine installed. Headers are looking pretty good now. They're mostly gloss black, but I tell you what, that old brown paint, it was degreased and it was scrubbed, but I didn't sand it off. That old brown paint did not want to be turned black. It kept almost absorbing the paint, and had to be sprayed a lot more than I thought it would need to be sprayed. But they're looking pretty good now. I mean, too good for white trash. So these are ready for install. I had to take the headers off the garage door where they're hanging for a minute so the family could use the garage door and bring our dogs through the garage without them escaping. I'm glad I did. There were several spots in these headers that I'd completely missed that I've now hit. They are looking ready for install. Headers are ready for install. Got some brass fittings to fill the O2 sensor bungs, a little exhaust gasket RTV, and new bolts for the new exhaust system, and they're ready to go. Today's a pretty big day. We are T-minus 4 days from stabbing the engine and transmission in Project White Trash. I just went and picked up my engine hoist again from my buddy Dylan. We've been using it on his LS1. And I got home and I found some of my packages have arrived. The first one, an important one, is my motor mount and transmission mount package. Here's one of the motor mounts with the transmission mount. And yes, I went solid steel motor mounts and transmission mounts. I know. It's going to rattle my teeth out. It's going to shatter the tail shaft of my transmission. It's going to vibrate the engine into a million pieces. I've heard all the rumors. I know all the stories. Except all the people I know that run solid motor mounts. It doesn't do any of that. It's an inconvenience. It's not going to be fun. It's not going to be comfortable, but I mean, once you see what I'm going to do for an exhaust system, yeah, this is nothing. On an unrelated note, I spilled a little bit of brake fluid here recently in my last video, and how corrosive is it? That corrosive. That was only a couple of days ago. Engine mounts are on. Transmission mount is on. So these things just about ready to install. Alright, my radiator hose has arrived also. of which I need exactly one of them today, because I sure don't want to be fighting that thing, trying to get it on in the engine bay. In fact, looking at it, I think I'm going to go ahead and take my alternator bracket off just to install it. Funny story, I had a whole bunch of radiator hoses saved online that I was looking at and bargain shopping around, and I found a set that was only a few dollars more than this that claimed to be made in America. And this is clearly Chinese sweatshop. And I went to order the American ones, and I didn't. Oh well, no givesies backsies. The Chinese sweatshop purchase is already coming back to bite me. This is the hose clamp they included for this thing. It's already stretched all the way out. Won't even go around it. That's what I get for being cheap. Luckily, I've got a bunch of hose clamps sitting around. Really paying the price for these sweatshop hoses. This will not go under there. You can see where I've tried to clearance this. This, believe it or not, this cheap generic hose is so thick it will not go in there. I've even dipped it in motor oil to lubricate it to get it to fit in here, and it will not go. And I just realized that it's probably an inch too long up top, so I'm gonna have to trim it. Now let's see. Yeah, solid inch too long. So I got to trim this thing now. Oh, man, I'm sweating out here. This is a lot of work. Oh my God, that took an embarrassingly long amount of time to get that on there. I had to trim it, oil it, clearance this, just to wrestle that on. Took over an hour. My next product that should be coming in a little while is supposedly 100% all American made. I hope it goes smoother than this. Alright, I got my heater caps on here. I will someday have a heater core and heater lines, but that is a future Chris problem. Finally found my flywheel. Man, it's disgusting looking. Who would have thought that sitting around for a year and with no oil, completely unprotected, raw metal, would rust so quickly? Weird. Alright, rebuilt to factory spec. I am not sure what this is. Something very sharp gouged 4 perfect indentions into the flywheel, and I can feel them, and I don't think I can polish those out. Oh well, I'll just consider it extra material for the clutch to grip onto. Some updates. I'm mere hours away from putting the engine and transmission in. I did manage to get my accessory bracket mounted on here. I went and got some new all-thread rods and made new bolts since I couldn't find the exact bolts I needed. I got the bolts from my starter, and my starter will be here in the morning. And I discovered that my bell housing and my transmission are most likely off an SN95 because they are completely different depth and shape and size and everything else as my old bell housing. So this came off a running car, so hopefully that's going to work. Alright, so here is our Stage 5 street clutch. What exactly is a Stage 5 street clutch, I hear you asking? Well, I have no idea. You know as much as I do. What I do know is that it was $105. And basically the Stage 1 was $101, and each stage was $1 more after that. 5 is bigger than 1, 2, 3, or 4. So I got this thing. It's supposedly all made in America, 100%. Wait a minute. Which direction does this thing go? It's not marked. It doesn't say anything. Do you go down or do you go up? The instructions are beyond useless. They don't tell me which direction this thing goes. We're just going to go ahead and say that it goes that way. There's a recess in the flywheel. We're going to go ahead and say it goes that way. Why not? For $105, the kit comes with a new throwout bearing, a new pilot bearing, and a clutch alignment tool, which I'm not going to use because I have an old input shaft. Now there's already one small problem with this thing. Let me see if I can line it up. The fitment problem that I'm having is when you bolt this thing all the way down, which I've already tried to test fit, it does not want to go. This disc is thick and there is not very much room underneath this pressure plate for this disc, when you tighten this thing down, it makes all sorts of nasty crunching sounds that don't sound good. I contacted the manufacturer and asked them about it. They said send pictures. I sent them pictures, and that's been it. And I'm out of time, so it's time to install it. So let's hope for the best, or else we'll be doing another clutch and transmission job underneath the car here soon. Then there's this guy. One of my head plugs came out. I put a bolt in it a while back and removed the bolt for something, test fitting something. Didn't even notice that this came off with the bolt, so it's been sitting around for months getting rusty, and I cannot get this off the bolt. This needs to go in the head, so I'm thinking if nothing else, I may have to install this, then just hack it off right there. I do not have any extras, and I don't have any time to order any. Good times. I did finally get these apart, but I kind of screwed up the threads. I've tried working it down with a file. I'm not sure this is going to work, but I made this spacer thing where I can try to drive this into the head and then still get the bolt out, hopefully. That is as far as that thing is going in there. That one would only go in that far. Hopefully neither one of them leak. I'm hoping this is going to work. If not, I'll have to order a new set after I fire it up if they leak. That's as good as it's getting for now. I thought I planned this out and was well coordinated and ready to do this. I was not. Thought I had a carb plate to lift this thing up. I do not. So I'm going to have to go back to the old chain adjuster and pull it from the side of the engine, which means I've got a mix matched, just bunch of garbage bolts holding the different chains on. Except I can't find one to fit this. And this will reach this, except this is barely in there, so I don't dare put a bolt in there and try to lift the weight of the engine by it, especially with the transmission on it. I don't understand why there's so many different sized bolt holes in the back of these heads. It's driving me crazy. Cannot find a bolt for this. I need to lift this thing here really soon. This is less than ideal. I do not have the shift fork. I cannot find it. I have one off another 5.0 somewhere, I think. I'm not sure it's going to fit this SN95 setup. The only one I can find looks like this. Lovely. Well, I just measured everything. This is absolutely an SN95 T5 SN95 bell housing, which is fine. It's all set up, except the problem is my clutch fork, all I have for a clutch fork is a Foxbody clutch fork, which will not fit. It will not fit through this. It sits in there like it's way too short for the SN95 bell housing. So when you put this on, you attach this. Stupid. Come on. Go. Yeah. It sits inside the transmission. So this engine and this transmission are not going in the car tomorrow. I've got to figure something out. We are in snafu territory. I have everything that I need for an SN95 except the clutch fork. And I have everything I need for a Foxbody except the input shaft. Now this might look usable if you don't know what you're looking at, but it has been through the ringer and trashed. So I even have a front bearing retainer for this input shaft if this input shaft wasn't thrashed. Am I losing my mind? Could have sworn the SN95 bearing retainer was longer than the Foxbody bearing retainer. I mean, obviously the input shaft is, but I thought everything was. Huh. Weird. Alright, I'm giving up for the night. I've tried everything. I even thought about shimming the Foxbody bell housing, but then the clutch fork and the flywheel and the starter aren't going to line up, so I'm just kind of screwed for today and probably for the week. Good times. It is the next morning, and somehow, some way, I got a 94-95 clutch fork at my local O'Reilly's. So I might just be alright to install this thing today. And my local Napa got my Foxbody starter in. It is a Foxbody starter though, so not sure exactly how this is going to go. SN95 transmission, clutch fork, bell housing, and Foxbody flywheel and starter. This will be fun. But first, I have to rewire Junior's car while I still got a little shade. It sort of melted the other day. Some of the wiring left me stranded again. So I'm going to do that while I've got some shade and then get back to my engine install. Chris Jr.'s car is warming up to try to diagnose and fix an electrical issue. And it is time to lift this up and see if these bolts are going to hold the weight of the engine. Easy. Come on, old girl. Come on. Lift up. Take the weight off the engine stand. The engine stand is up in the air. So far, so good. I have found that Mickey Thompson makes the best engine pads, specifically 30-year-old Mickey Thompson ET drags, in the event you have to lay your engine down in an emergency. Okay, I think I'm actually getting high and about to pass out from the fumes from Junior's car. She's running rich today. Alright, it's been a little while, but this pilot bearing and I have come to a gentleman's agreement that it is not coming out, and I'm going to stop trying to get it out. So, sounds like a future Chris problem. I forgot how brutally difficult it was to align a flywheel, holding it up in place and aligning the bolt holes by yourself. Junior's not here today. He's supposed to be, but something came up. So I'm out here alone doing this. Got brand new flywheel bolts. As you can see, they have red Loctite pre-installed. I'm not messing around with my flywheel safety. And I'm sure that red Loctite will be a lot of fun when I have to do another clutch job here in a couple of weeks. Those are installed. Torque specs call for 75 to 85 foot-pounds. So I split the difference at 80, and I brought them up in a star pattern, 40, 60, 80, one at a time, crossing every time, just to make sure. Alright, I think I'm installing this way, because if I turn the raised part in, it seems to actually maybe contact the pilot bearing. It seems like it's going to be way too far down the input shaft of the transmission. And I think the raised part on most clutches comes out, so we're going to try it this way and hope for the best. My preferred clutch alignment tool is an old input shaft. Far more secure if you have one of these sitting around. And yes, I did just attempt to align the disc with the alignment tool before I put the pressure plate on, because I am dumb. You have to do them both at the same time. Oh my God, that was so difficult, it's unreal. This is so thick and these weights are so heavy. It took forever, and there was a lot of crunching sounds going on. Now, I'm not an expert in stage 5 600 horsepower clutches, but this seemed insanely difficult to do. Most of my life I just bought the cheapest stock replacement clutch I could, drove it till I killed it, and threw in another one. Oddly enough, even in the 90s, those stock clutches were more expensive than this stage 5 600 horsepower clutch. I sure hope this thing is going to work. You have got to be kidding me. This thing right here is keeping the bell housing from mounting flush. I've got to push it up there, and it's hitting that thing. So that means I've got to lower the engine and adjust that bracket. Do not forget to lube your contact points. I go a little crazy and just put tons and tons of grease on them. For the throwout bearing, once again, just tons and tons of grease everywhere. Inside the mounting points, inside the bearings, everything. Inside the hole, everywhere. I'm sure someone will come along and be like, no, you don't need that much grease. You don't need to do that. Well, I'm not risking this thing going out early. I don't want to tear up my clutch or my transmission. And once these things start chirping and rattling and whining, that means they're dry, and that's the beginning of the end. Somehow I'm short a couple of bell housing bolts. I'm not sure what happened. in their place, I'll be using these old head bolts, which are a little too long. I'm just going to use a spacer. Fixed. Oh my God. I completely forgot about this. I have 2 dipsticks. I never ordered a Moroso dipstick tube. And I also never plugged the factory dipstick spot. I'm minutes away from trying to stab this thing and completely forgot about that. Once again, I am dumb. I cannot find my stock oil dipstick for this car. Junior and I have seen it, we've handled it, we've moved it around. He's asked me if I was using it. I told him yes. It has just disappeared. For some reason, in its place, I have an automatic transmission tube filler for an AOD. I have never owned an AOD Mustang. Be gone, vile satanic creation. You are not welcome here. Found it. There's a problem. I'm guessing the reason Moroso provides this is because, yeah, this oil pan is just 100% completely in the way. This is not going to work. This also is not going to work. I guess I'm going to plug this and order a Moroso dipstick for the oil pan. Joy, more money. Fixed forever. I'm sure no amount of crankcase pressure could ever blow that out or anything. Look, don't judge me. It's the best I could do on short notice, and it is technically plugged. I did sort of forget to clean the front bearing retainer and input shaft of the transmission. 30 seconds with some carb cleaner and a wire brush, and I'm gonna say we're done. As Jamie from Dead Dodge Garage would say, it's not good, it's good enough. Alright, transmission is stabbed. Oh my God, that sucked horribly. Speaking of sucking, remind me to beat Chris Jr. mercilessly next time I see him for not being here to help me with this. I don't care that he's got a good excuse. This is killing me. I'm too old for this stuff. True story, I'm a few years older than Danny Glover was in the first Lethal Weapon when he said that he was too old for that stuff. Also, speaking of sucking, all you guys who claim to watch my stuff, Lynn R., Stephen H., Garrett P's son-in-law, whatever your name is, sorry I forgot. Y'all claim to watch all my stuff every time. I guess we'll see who watches this stuff after this. Lynn R., you're good. You comment all the time. I know you watch everything and give me absolute crap about all my mistakes. J-Rod, the reason you guys suck is not one of you cared enough to call me or text me or message me and tell me, hey, stupid, before you put your clutch on and your flywheel, your bell housing, your transmission, grease your pilot bearing first. Some of you might be saying, isn't that pretty day one rookie stuff? Shouldn't you have known that? Apparently not. Do you have any idea how much it sucked to get in there and try to lube that thing up with the bell housing, the clutch, and the clutch fork all on there? I blame you guys. It's all your fault, not mine. I absolve myself completely. Your fault. If you're watching this and didn't help me, it's your fault. In all seriousness, thank you everyone who has ever watched a video, left a comment, left a like, anything. Thank you and God bless. Now back to our regularly scheduled program and trying to get this thing inside of this thing by myself. Guess I'll know here soon whether Junior actually watches our videos or not, because you suck, boy. Alright, I've hit a stopping point. All the internet forums and Facebook groups all say that this starter will fit, this Foxbody starter will fit a 94, 95 bell housing with a Foxbody flywheel, but I cannot get it to go in. It's not even really all that close. I can't tell exactly what's hitting, but I suspect it's this curvature right here hitting this snout. Here's the starter sitting on the Foxbody bell housing with plenty of room. It just flops right on there. Of course, there's no flywheel in there, but the bolt holes line up and everything's just sits there comfortably. But this just absolutely will not seat in there at all, no matter what I do. And I think it's hitting this ridge up here because it's forcing this bolt down. I can't get this top bolt anywhere near. Yeah, you can see that. Let me see if I can zoom in. You can see that right there. You see where that sharp turn is hitting right there. Back to the parts store. I'm exhausted. I gotta take a little break, get something to eat and drink, see if I can track down a 94, 95, SN95 starter and hope it fits with this flywheel. I am back. Ran down to O'Reilly's. They just happen to have an SN95 high torque mini starter sitting on the shelf. Let's see if this fits. Hallelujah. I think that's going to work. At least in theory. Hopefully it mates up to the flywheel and everything. Installed. Alright. I forgot the SN95s came with a starter solenoid on the starter. And I have a starter solenoid on my firewall or my fender. So do I run two solenoids? Oh man, I'm gonna have to look into how to wire this thing up. I think that's main power in to the starter. I can't remember. Anyway, it's in. Victory. Look who has finally joined us. Say hello, the boy.
Hi.
Earlier in this video, I might have said something like, I am moments away from trying to stab this engine and transmission. So when I said moments away from stabbing this engine, I meant 8 days later, because it is 8 days later. But I finally have a little bit of help. So we're going to try to get this done. We're going to fail, but we're going to try. Make yourself useful, the boy, and get the engine in the air. Faster, the boy, faster. Today, Junior. He has no idea what movie that is or what I'm referencing right now. He thinks I'm just insulting him.
It's because you're old.
How dare you? I'm young and spry. We just had a heck of a fright. As soon as I turned off the camera, something here somewhere snapped with a loud metallic crack. Scared the crap out of us. We think it may have been this adjusting itself or something, but oh man, it sounded like a gunshot going off. Anyway, back to work, boy. Go ahead, boy. Start pushing gently, gentle, easy, easy, push. There we go. I'm pulling, you push, I'll line it up. We got this. I guess I should put this stupid camera down. All right, that looks like it's going to clear. We're going to start tilting and start lowering it in. Well, we thought we might get it in with the shifter in it, but it's obvious we're going to need those extra 3 inches of clearance, so we're going to take the Pro 50 shifter off and just stab it without it. Not a big deal. I was just being lazy and didn't want to take it off. All right, it has come time to prepare the headers for install, and I completely forgot these header gaskets do not fit. But a couple of minutes with the Dremel, and these are practically factory. Yeah, they're going to go right on. Just open up the holes a little bit. We're going to kind of sort of glue these onto the primaries and stick them in. We use some spacers on our header bolts to pin our modified, slightly ill-fitting gaskets into place. We're letting them dry, and we're going to install the engine now. All right, boy, try not to get crushed. I need you to push down on the tail housing of the transmission near the shifter. As I push this in, don't worry about scraping or anything. We're worried about the oil pan. I don't care about the transmission tunnel. Okay? Don't worry about that. Just get that under the car so we can keep pushing forward. All right, we're in a good spot. Now I'm going to start lowering it slowly. We got plenty of clearance up here. And just make sure that tucks down under there. Okay, bud? That was entirely way too easy. I mean, I still got to clear this. Should have taken that crank pulley off, but man, that just like a glove. We did almost nothing. It's almost installing itself. I wish I had a cameraman to have recorded that for us to see how fast and easy that was. I only stopped to make this video. I boasted way too soon. Our giant Moroso oil pan is hitting our factory cross member. At the same time, our transmission is hitting our transmission tunnel. Pretty sure this oil pan was made for a stock K member, because I never had a tubular one, so this could be a problem. Well, I thought we were clearing, and we may not be clearing now. I literally lowered this thing till it touched, it just rested on the cross member and then pushed it backwards. Still a couple inches short, but I'm not sure it's gonna clear. This is a problem. We are out of room to push the engine hoist any further. We're hitting the radiator support. I don't understand it. This doesn't even have a nose on it. Junior's car, we used the same hoist to install his engine with the nose on the car, like out to here. I don't understand what's going on, but I guess now we just muscle it. That's why we lift, right, the boy? We were 99% done, and we forgot the headers. So now we're trying to wedge the headers in here and install it with the headers kind of hung by wire sitting here. We're having a lot of fun. We are like an inch off on this side, 2 inches off on the other from stabbing these motor mounts. Just can't get it to line up. We are on the struggle bus right now. We're going to have to readjust our lifter arm. The problem is with the transmission counterbalancing it. This thing is so far back here, it needs to be up here, but then it tilts the engine, so we're going to pull these back bolts, hook it up to the front, lift up the front, slide it back, and hopefully stab it. Alright, we had to jack up the transmission, but both our motor mounts are in and seated. The engine is in its cradle. It is ready to rock and roll. The headers are almost completely lined up. We don't seem to be having any clearance issues right now, and we are in a pretty good place. Feel good, buddy? All right. The engine is in. It is installed. I have to come back out here at some point and mount the headers. Oh God, I may have to clearance the headers for that steering rack, even though these headers came off of this car with that steering rack. These motor mounts may have shifted things around. Everything over here looks great. The driver's side is tight. This is about where the engine's going to sit. These look like these might be drop motor mounts, because look how low the engine's sitting compared to the firewall. But that is it for now. We're done. That's all I'm doing. I'll come back out here later and put the trans cross member on and bolt it up, and I'll start kind of piecing things together, but the engine is stabbed. We are done with this. We labored hard on Labor Day, and it feels good, doesn't it, boy?
Yep.
All right. So, thanks for watching.